of London.
The London Sports Show.
BBC Radio London.
But just over a fortnight after landing Tottenham's first European trophy for over 40 years and 2 years to the day since he was appointed, Ange Postecoglou is leaving his role as manager of Tottenham Hotspur. Thanks for the memories.
The Europa League trophy is the heaviest of them all at 15 kilos. But that weight of burden that has hung over Tottenham Hotspur has been lifted because they have won a European title. They are the second English side to win this competition in its various guises 3 times. 1972, 1984 and now 2025.
Ange Postecoglou delivered that trophy, first of any kind since 2009. His final post-match interview for the club came after their 22nd league defeat of the Premier League season.
It's been a real season of mixed fortunes and such jubilation on Wednesday night. How do you assess the season as a whole?
How do I assess? Yeah. Outstanding. We've won a trophy, which we haven't done for 17 years, and we're in the Champions League. Ask anyone at this football club at the start of the year whether they'd take that. I'm pretty sure there wouldn't be a person in the house who wouldn't.
Good evening from Andy Rowley alongside Emily Herbert. We will be looking into this with some guests. We'll look at just that juxtaposition of the European glory and the dreadful form in the Premier League, and we will assess Ange Postecoglou's 2 years in charge at Tottenham Hotspur and also look at the candidates for who will be next. Lots to come on the sports show here on the home of London football.
BBC Radio London.
The home of London sport.
Yes, a very good evening to you. We were lining up a few interviews with England players, the likes of Ivan Toney, Trevor Chalobah. We were going to hear from Reece James, the Chelsea and England defender. We were also going to bring you an interview with Brian Mbermo, the Brentford forward, looking at lots of other stories, including Nathan Jones signing a long-term extension to his job to his contract as a manager of Charlton Athletic. We'll still come to that before we're done this hour. But of course, the breaking news has just superseded all that as Ange Postecoglou has left his role as Tottenham manager 16 days after leading them to victory in the Europa League final with that 1-0 victory over Manchester United. The victory parade followed just a couple of days later. 2 weeks ago, in fact, on this Friday show, we were crossing to North London where there was delirium, really, amongst the Spurs fans at finally having landed that trophy. Ange Postecoglou promised that he would deliver a trophy in his second season, said he always delivers in his second season, and was as good as his word. However, the league form was, dreadful, let's face it. 17th in the Premier League, 22 defeats in 38 games. The manager did say that due to the injuries and the fact that they were closing in on European glory, that he was going to prioritise that. But the league form suffered so badly as a result that the club have decided to make this move 2 years to the day after the Australian joined the North London club from Celtic. He will always have that night in Bilbao, though, when he became only the third Tottenham manager to win a European trophy. Let's speak first of all on this show before we hear from Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat podcast to Emily Herbert, who joins me in the studio. What a big story this was that we were met with just about an hour ago here, Emily.
Yeah, it was really quiet, wasn't it? A couple of hours ago, and then all of a sudden it kicks in. But I think I think you could see it coming that Ange might have gone. I mean, Spurs fans were on the fence, weren't they? Because on one hand it was an awful Premier League season, but on the other he was the man that brought back a piece of major silverware for the first time in 17 years to the club. So a lot of people on the fence, but obviously and ultimately have decided to let him go.
Well, let's speak to Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat podcast. Good evening to you, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Andy, Emily, good evening.
So I guess, every Spurs fan would have been sort of not overly surprised maybe by this, but there were a huge proportion of Spurs fans, I think, who, given that he delivered on that promise to win a trophy, that a lot of Spurs fans would have felt maybe give him a bit longer. Is it that cut and dry? Is it sort of 50-50, or were there way more that felt that the league form was so disappointing that the club would have to act? How did you feel about it?
Well, it's interesting how you say that, Andy, because on the YouTube channel and podcast, we ran a number of polls, and it was very, very high, actually. 74% of fans on our programme wanted Ange Postecoglou to stay. Now, as you've mentioned, 16 days ago, delivering our first European trophy in 41 years, our first trophy in 17 years, which seems a very, very long time, I might add. That parade 2 weeks ago today, over 200,000 fans in that high road. It was incredible scenes. I had the week of my life, and I want to feel like that all the time, watching Tottenham Hotspur. And, as you've also mentioned, only the third manager in Tottenham's history to lift the European trophy, and rubbing shoulders with the likes of the great Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw. In my opinion, I think that Ange Postecoglou should have kept his job. Yes, 22 league defeats. It was very, very hard. I'm a fan that goes home and away. I saw all of these with my own eyes. But you've got to look at the recruitment as well. During Ange's time, did we put enough money into the transfer market for him? Did we give him experienced players to be fighting on all fronts? Because it's interesting how they said that in the club statement about they expect Spurs to be fighting on all fronts. I actually thought it was a very clever move from Ange Postecoglou to go down the route of, wanting to go and win a trophy at Spurs after such a long time, going to win the Europa League. We played a very different style in some of those, knockout games, particularly the Frankfurt away game was very, very impressive. No one expected us to go and win that game. But to win a trophy and then sack a manager like this, I don't agree with it at all.
Well, if I can just read the statement that he's given, because you mentioned the statement from the club there, which does, indicate the thanks for the glory that he brought the club, but also reflect on the 22 league defeats in a 38-game league season. This is what Ange has had to say. When I reflect on my time as manager of Tottenham Hotspur, my overriding emotion is one of pride. The opportunity to lead one of England's historic football clubs and bring back the glory it deserves will live with me for a lifetime. Sharing that experience with all those who truly love this club and seeing the impact it had on them is something I will never forget. That night in Bilbao was the culmination of 2 years of hard work, dedication and unwavering belief in a dream. There were many challenges to overcome and plenty of noise that comes with trying to accomplish what many said was not possible. We have also laid foundations that mean this club should not have to wait 7 more years for their next success. I have enormous faith in this group of players and know there is much more potential and growth in them. I sincerely want to thank those who are the lifeblood of the club, the supporters. I know there were some difficult times, but I always felt that they wanted me to succeed, and that gave me all the motivation I needed to push on. It's important to acknowledge the hard-working people at Spurs who gave me encouragement on a daily basis. And finally, I want to thank those who were with me every day for the last 2 years, a fantastic group of young men who are now legends of this football club, and the brilliant coaches who never once doubted we could do something special. We are forever connected. Audere est facere. Well, just to come back to you on that statement, Chris, he was very popular in many ways, wasn't he, Ange Postecoglou? But I guess it was also divisive because we saw what Manchester United did with Eric Ten Hag. He wins the FA Cup, they keep him on, and then it kind of leads to maybe more trouble. But you obviously felt that someone who delivers a trophy like that and lifts the gloom at the club, just changes the way the club's perceived, really, deserves more.
Well, the thing is, Andy, we have gone through 7 different managers in the dugout since Mauricio Pochettino left in 2019. And you look at some of these managers that we've appointed and they have failed to get Spurs over the line and deliver that trophy. Yes, we've had top 4 finishes. Yes, we've played Champions League football, etc. But if you'd have said to anyone 2 years ago today when Ange Postecoglou was appointed at the football club, in his first season, we will lose Harry Kane and finish 5th. And in the second season, we will win a trophy and we will qualify for the Champions League. And then if I told anyone 2 years down the line, Ange Postecoglou will be sacked, I think all of you would have been laughing at me saying that is absolutely ridiculous. So when you look at the stats, yes, 22 league defeats is not good enough in the Premier League. I get that. And I'm sure that conversation has taken place with Daniel Levy and Ange Postecoglou in the fact that can you play a more pragmatic style like you did in the Europa League in the Premier League? But we have seen this as Spurs fans so many times. Mauricio Pochettino didn't spend a penny in multiple transfer windows. It was actually in 518 days. He took us to a Champions League final. without that investment, you know, a couple of months later, got sacked. Jose Mourinho got sacked 6 days before a final. Antonio Conte got sacked, you know, saying a number of home truths in a press conference. And we waited 72 days for Nuno Espirito Santo to come through the door. So what worries me now is the plan forward. But, you know, going back to Ange Postecoglou, I think that he can leave the football club extremely proud. He always said to the media, I always win in my second season. I feel like a lot of people, particularly fans and in the media, they didn't like to be proved wrong that Ange Postecoglou has delivered this trophy in his second season. And he's absolutely right. There has been a lot of noise. There's been a lot of doubters from day one. But ultimately, he will go down as one of the club legends because, you know, as we've both said, he's the third guy to deliver a European trophy at the football club.
Yeah, no one will ever be able to take that away. And as Brennan Johnson said, it's kind of a mic drop moment, really, to walk out having delivered that trophy. Just a final question for you, Chris. Do you have a feeling on who you'd want next?
Well, this was part of the reason why I wanted Ange Postecoglou to stay, because I can't see that there is a better manager out there at the moment, if I'm completely honest. And you know, to be frank with you, and pardon the pun, you know, Thomas Frank looks like, you know, he's going to be the guy that Spurs are lining up. You know, no Champions League experience, but, you know, when he's been in the Premier League with Brentford, he's played a really nice style, which I like. You know, he looks seems a very nice guy in the media. And he's always done extremely well with Brentford with limited resources. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do feel like the board have put themselves under more pressure because the expectation is going to be pretty high. But is this another rebuild? Because, you know, they gave Ange Postecoglou a 4-year deal because this was a rebuild. This was a major reset, you know, so he hasn't been given the time or the patience. You know, 2 years down the line, he's delivered a trophy. They've offloaded him now. So, you know, what is the next manager going to think? What does he need to do to keep his job?
That's going to have cost implications, of course, as well. Him leaving that early. Chris, it's great to speak to you so soon after the news. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat podcast, giving his thoughts and reflections on Ange Postecoglou as he has left his job as Tottenham manager after 2 years in the role and having delivered that Europa League trophy. Let's speak to Steve, who's given us a call.